So here we are. We're on to question 8. And question 8 is their second context and applications question. Quickly here, you'll see here that we're talking about sequences and series. Cork Milks Limited is a company. It makes a profit of €50,000 in 2018. That's year 1. A model for future trading predicts that the profits will increase year by year in a geometric series with common ratio R. Okay. The model, so R is greater than 1, so it's increasing. The model therefore predicts that in 2019, which is year 2, a profit of €50,000 times R will be made. And in 2020, which is year 3, a profit of 50,000 times R squared will be made. Write down an expression for the predicted profit in year N. Okay, so as a student, I can imagine might well just write down the answer 50,000 times R to the power of N minus 1. And Andrew, am I right that that's correct for 10 marks?
Yeah, absolutely. 10 full marks there, yeah.
Okay. And another student might go to the formula tables book and find that the formula is A times R to the power of N minus 1. That's your general term of a geometric series. A would be your 50,000. R is, we're told, is R. And N is what we're talking about, the nth year. So therefore, that would be my answer. And it's a 10-mark question.
So this is marked on a 0, 4, 10 scale. So partial credit would be if you got an answer of 50,000 R to the power of N. So you made a mistake there, you didn't have the minus 1. That would be partial credit. And then you could also get partial credit if you had some form of correct substitution into the general formula. So if you wrote down the general formula, you wrote down A equals 50,000, that would get you the partial credit here, which is your 4 marks. But as we said, 10 marks are given just for writing down that correct answer. So you don't need any working or anything for this question. If you just have that written down, that's 10 marks.
Okay, perfect. So that brings us on to part B. Now, when students look at part B, a lot of them might recoil in horror a little bit because it's logs, it's inequalities, it's abstract. There's a bit going on here. It says, show that, well, I suppose I better read the key line. The model predicts that in year end, the profit made will exceed €200,000. Show that N, which is the year, is greater than log 4 over log R plus 1. So a lot of times students won't really know what that means. So if you don't know what to do what you know. You say to yourself, okay, what do we have in part A? Well, in part A, we had Tn, the general term, was 50,000 times R to the power of N minus 1. That's, how much profit is made in any particular year. And we want to find when is that greater than 200,000. Okay? So you might look at this and you'd look at what you want and you'd say, God, I don't know how I'm going to get here. I'll remind you, of course, that log 4 is the same as log 4 to the base 10. Okay, it's just a shorthand way of writing it. Log R is log R to the base 10. Okay, so what do we do? Well, the first thing we do is we're going to divide both sides by the 50,000, and straight away things look better because I got R to the power of N minus 1 is greater than 4. And of course, we have a 4 in the starting line. So what are we going to do next? Well, we know we need logs. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the log of both sides. So we introduce logs to both sides. So log R to the power of N minus 1 is greater than log 4. But I know, of course, that this is, really to the base 10. Both sides. That's what it means. It's log R to the power of N minus 1 to the base 10 is greater than log 4 to the base 10. Because it's R to the power of N minus 1, I can use my power to the front law, and I'm going to get the following line. N minus 1 times log R is greater than log 4. I'm keeping an eye on my answer. I'm kind of happy enough. I'm dividing both sides by the log R. That's great because I know that R is greater than 1. I'm okay with this. I don't have to worry about changing my sign. And what am I going to do? I'm going to keep going here. I'm going to add 1 to both sides. I look back at my answer, and even though I mightn't be certain of what I'm doing, I've somehow got to my answer. I got 10 marks. Okay, Andrea.
So this is marked 0, 5, 8, and 10. So low partial credit here is forming a correct equation. So your correct answer of A or even an incorrect answer of A, making it greater than 200,000, is forming an equation and worth 5 marks there. For high partial credit, it's rearranging and taking logs. So you needed to have moved the 50,000 across and taken logs. So if you get to as far as r to the n minus 1 is greater than 4, that is still low partial credit. Once you then do the next step and take logs of both sides, you're then moving on to high partial credit, which is worth 8 marks.
Okay, so even if they got down to that part where they've taken a log of both sides, you're on 8 mark for a question that you might have found quite difficult. Okay, so now again we bring it back to this part that you're going to learn from this process. Part C, you could figure out part C without ever doing A and B, because it says use the model with R equals 1.09. Okay, so now if you know that R is equal to 1.09, find the year which the profit made will first exceed 200,000 euros. So what do we have here? We know that the general term for the profit made each year is 50,000 times 1.09 to the power of n minus 1, and that's greater than 200,000. I'm going to divide both sides by the 50,000. That's obviously going to give me 4. Now I'm going to do the same thing here again. I want to solve this inequality. So one way of doing it is you're going to introduce logs to both sides. So I'm going to describe that as log, just because this was what was in the question, log 1.09 to the power of n minus 1 greater than a log of 4. But of course we know that's to the base 10, again in both cases. So I can bring the n minus 1 in front here using the power to the front. I'm going to divide both sides by log of 1.09. And again, that's going to be a positive value. So I don't need to worry about the sign changing. I'm going to get n greater than 1.1 plus 16.08. So that's 1, I suppose it's 17.08646345 years. So it's going to have to be greater than 17 years. So it's going to be in the 18th year. So n equals 18 is going to be my my value of n. And what do we say, Andrea? Is that because 2018 is the first year, it's going to be 2035 as my answer. Isn't that right?
That's correct, yeah.
And Andrea, can you remind me how many marks there were there for this question?
So there were 5 marks for this question. So
5
it's,
marks.
yeah.
Okay. Was there? Well, could students have done this without ever using this formula?
They could, yeah. And if they get the correct answer without using the formulas, they can still have the 5 marks.
And if I was to ask you a question, what if a student, yeah, I could imagine a student thinking that it might be 17 because it's greater than 17.08. So I'm just picturing a student who has, okay, it is n equals 18 because when you say 17, the profit earned in the 17th year is not above 200,000. You have to be in the 18th year before the profit in that year is greater than 200,000. If a student, for instance, just wrote down 2034, am I right in thinking that we go by the rule, the incorrect answer with no workings gets no marks?
Yeah, if they just write down that answer, yeah, no marks at all.
That's it. So they have to remember that.
Yeah.
Okay. Was there anything else you needed to say about this one?
Yeah, I'll just go through the marks
Oh
in the
yeah.
low partial credit and the high for this. So it's a 0, 2, 3, 5 scale. So low partial credit here is for the substitution in of 1.09. So there are different ways of doing it. You could do it the way we've displayed here on the PowerPoint. You could do it by just substituting in 1.09 into your answer for part B. And you would end up with the n is greater than 17.086. Or you could do it by just multiplying on each one as we discussed. Any of the substitution of 1.09 get you 2 marks low partial credit. To get high partial credit here for 3 marks, you need to get an answer of n is greater than 17.086. So we need that answer to be able to get the high partial credit here. The full credit is awarded for the correct answer of 2035. So the question says, find the year in which. So it's not for year 18 you're getting full credit. It's for having the correct answer of 2035. Okay, so that is needed for the full credit here.
Okay. Andrea, thanks very much. So that is part C. And we're moving on now to part D. Find the total of the profits that will be made by the company from the 10 years 2018 to 27 inclusive, and give your answer correct to the nearest 10,000 euro. Okay, again, I can imagine a scenario where a student does this just using common sense maths. However, of course, it is a geometric series, so we can use on page 22 here of our table book, we could use our Sn formula for the geometric series. Sn is equal to a times 1 minus r to the power of n all over 1 minus r. Okay, where a is our first term, that's going to be our 50,000. R is our common ratio, and I think maybe this is following through from the last one, so it's 1.09, and R in this case is going to be 10. Okay, so you're just filling in this formula, and you get your answer to be the 759,646, correct to the nearest 10,000, that's 760,000, and that's a 5-mark question.
So on this one, we're looking at 0, 3, 4, 5 for the scale. So low partial credit is a partially correct substitution. So if you have substituted in any part of the sum formula correctly, so the 50,000 or the 1.09 or the power of 10, any of those things is low partial credit there for 3 marks. High partial credit is for a fully correct substitution. So you have the formula substituted incorrectly. So your 50,000 1 minus 1.09 to the power of 10 over your 1 minus 1.09. Without then going any further, you're getting a 4 marks there for fully correct substitution. This question is starred as well. So if you got the answer, you go on and get the correct answer, but you round incorrectly, you drop back down to the 4 marks. Okay, so it's 4 marks available if it's rounded incorrectly. So you didn't round to your nearest 10,000 or whatever way you rounded incorrectly. Okay, that'll take you to 4 marks. And then, as we've said, the 760,000 is the full 5 marks.
Okay, so now we're on to part E. Draw a graph to show the profits over time between 2018 and 2027. Okay, so you have your table, so you can figure this out from your TN. So your TN was equal to 50,000 times your R, which was your 1.09 to the power of n minus 1. So you're just filling in that table for each n. So you could do this again on your Casio, you do it as a mode 3. On your Sharp, you could do it, if it's a new Sharp you have, it's a mode 2. So you type it in and you can get the values for the first 10 years here. And all you have to do then is plot it, draw the graph. And again, you could do it, just one by one on your calculator as well, figuring them out. And that's a 5-mark question. Okay.
So on this question, it's 0, 3, 5 scale. So any correct value is plotted. So if you only plot a couple of 1 point even correctly, you can get partial credit here for 3 marks. Okay, so it's quite generously marked, this one. In terms of you can have numerous mistakes and still get your partial credit here. Okay, so just when you're marking it, if you look at your answer and you see that you haven't drawn a graph, you've just plotted on some points, have a look and see if any of those points are correct. Because if they are, you can have partial credit here.
Okay. So, again, it just shows you got to hang on in there with this, because part E here was relatively straightforward. Now, part F is different. Part F is one that you're either probably going to know and have studied, or else you're going to struggle with. 2 different ways of doing it. We're going to go through the way that's most common, but also you could do this by induction. So what do we do here? We say Sn, the sum of the first n terms of, let me just say one time here what exactly we're asked to prove. We're asked to prove that the first n terms of a geometric series is given by Sn is equal to a times 1 minus r to the power of n all over 1 minus r. So what it is this, right? It's Sn is equal to a, the first term, plus a times r, which is your second term, plus a times r squared, which is your third, all the way up to a times r to the power of n minus 1. Now that is your nth term of the series, because the first term here did not have any r in it. Okay, we use this approach where we multiply both sides by r. So we get r times Sn is equal to, so what's happened here, a has become ar has become ar squared, all the way up to the last one, where ar to the power of n minus 1 multiplied by r becomes ar to the power of n, because you're adding 1 to n minus 1. Now you use this idea where you subtract, and what you say is Sn minus r times Sn. So you're subtracting the second equation from the first. So your left-hand side becomes Sn minus r times Sn, and on your right-hand side, you'll see what happens here. Because all of these are going to change to negatives, the ar is going to cancel with the ar squared with the ar squared, the r cubed with the r cubed, all the way to the end. But there isn't anything to cancel with your a up here, or your a r to the power of n at the end. You take out a common factor on the left-hand side of Sn, and you have Sn times 1 minus r equals a times 1 minus r to the power of n on the right-hand side. So a is your common factor on the right-hand side. And what you do is you divide both sides by the 1 minus r, and hey presto, there is your answer. So it's a 10-mark question. You could have done it by induction as well. That's covered in the marking scheme. But that was the quickest way to get to your answer. And for some of you, you would have been delighted with it because you know it, and some people wouldn't. And that's the thing about the formal proofs. So, Andrea.
So this one's marked 0, 4, 7, 8, 10. So low partial credit here, if we go through the method that you've just seen, if you multiply through by r, so you do rs to the n, that would be low partial credit. So that would be the first step of the proof, really. The mid partial credit was the subtraction of the two lines previous from each other. So Sn minus rs to the n. So that subtraction was mid partial credit. And then high partial credit was correctly factorizing both of those. So the second from last step was high partial credit there, which is 8 marks. You could also have done this question by induction. So if you did it by induction, low partial credit there is given for doing step 1 of induction. Mid partial credit is for step 2 of induction. And lastly, high partial credit, so your 8 marks, is for any attempt at step 3 of induction.
Okay, so that's great. Andrea, thank you very much. And that brings us to the end of question 8. And now we're on to question 9.